described by different scholars in their own perspectives according to their own experiences. In order to understand the truth behind God, man, and world, in one essentially is required to have various disciplinaries of there comes the need of Tattva Bodha, which serves the ultimate purpose to explain the Mangala Charana or invocation, which goes like this Vasudevendra Yogidram Natva Jnanapradam Guru Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Vidhiyate, and added that the purpose of chanting this is to remove the hurdles in this process of learning. Then Swamiji started to explain about Anubandha Chatushtaya, which are Adhikari, Vishaya, Sambandha, and Prayojana. In the next verses, four qualifications of a seeker for the truth were explained, and those are Viveka, Shat Sampattihi, and Mumukshatva. Shat Sampattihi is further classified as six qualities: Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. Further, Swamiji explained about the five sheets or koshas of an individual: Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. This was the short summary of the previous class. Swamiji, over to you.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay. Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Gnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bidhiyate. My dear spiritual aspirants, indeed, I am very happy to address all of you on this preliminary text, the Prakarana Grantha of Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic philosophy. Why I am feeling very happy is because I am seeing all the youngsters here, young stars according to me, which is the vibrant India, Vishwaguru Bharata we are supposed to build, and that is the responsibility is there on all of us. For an example, if I'm speaking with a person who is 60 plus or 70 plus, though he or she may be interested in all these things, their physical strength may not be there. The mental strength, they may not be there for them to practice all these sublime truths. But you people, young people, with full of energy, with full of vitality, where you are interested to know the highest truths of this ancient wisdom of ancient Bharata. So probably among some of you, if you can understand and if you can assimilate in your life and if you can transfer for the next coming generation, definitely my labor or my karma yoga and my seva to my guru and to my motherland Bharata definitely will be fulfilled. And the Rishi Runa, definitely I'll be completing it. So believing in this, so I'm trying to discuss the Tattvabodha text. And also, probably I would like to mention you, maybe since now it is an academical subject for you, as Chidambar said in your previous class, it is utmost important for you to get a marks, to fetch marks, no doubt. And apart from that, it is an ancient wisdom. Hardly people get chance to hear such wonderful truths, sublime truths. And you people are the few people, the chosen people among 130 crores of India. There's a saying, beautiful saying in English. Many are called, few are selected. And among them, you are the selected people to understand, to hear the sublime truths. So you should definitely you should feel proud of yourself, and also you should thank to the God and to your parents and to Sadguru and to your gurus, so that you will get more and more opportunities to hear such text. And also, if you can follow these things properly, your thinking will be right and why I should do and why I should not do, what I should do, what I should not do, when I should do, when I should not do. The power of discrimination will be evolved and will be awakened in you. By that, what will happen? You will be the true human being in its nature. We are all having a human body, but it is not that all the time we behave as human beings. Probably in Kannada we say, avanu katte tara aadtane, ನಾಯಿ ತರ ಬೊಗಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಹಂದಿ ತರ ತಿಂತಾನೆ, ನರಿ ತರ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. We will be telling all these things. So we are all human beings, but sometimes we behave as animals, many of us. So when we understand all this philosophy and if we can put into practice, we become really human beings with the help of discrimination, and also we can be the divine beings, which is our real nature. So it is not only for academical pursuit you have to study and hear a Tattvabodha class, rather it is for our life also. So any of your student can tell where did I stop at the previous class? So it is a test for you now, practical test. Sorry, Shat Sampatti did I start? Did I start Shatka Sampatti? Okay. So Anubandha Chatushtaya we were discussing. In Anubandha Chatushtaya we got 4 things: Adhikari, Vishaya, Sambandha, Prayojana. What are things I've explained? And we have taken up the Adhikari, who is the fit person to study Advaita Vedanta or Tattvabodha text. So the author describes again 4-fold qualifications for Adhikari. One is Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka, discrimination between eternal and ephemeral. That is what I said, discrimination. 4 Ds. The second is Iha Amutra Palabhogadi Viragaha, dispassion towards the enjoyments obtainable or obtained in this world, in this mundane world, and in the above 7 worlds and in the below 7 worlds. This dispassion, Vairagya. And the third is Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, 6 virtues: Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhana, Shraddha. 6 virtues, they are called discipline. Why it is called discipline, not disciplines? Why? Because the 6 are together, it is bound, it is a one package. One cannot exist without. Like I have got a Shama and I don't have a Dama, means Shama cannot exist. That's the reason all these 6 virtues are called as a discipline, not the disciplines. So this we have to understand. One cannot exist without the other. One is interlinked. 6 virtues I'm going to explain. The 4th one is Mumukshatvam, Moktu Micha Mumukshu. And one who has got Mumukshatva is called Mumukshu, means desire for liberation. So 4 Ds. One is discrimination, the second is dispassion, the third is discipline, the 4th is desire. 4 Ds is nothing but Adhikari, which probably it will be helpful for you to remember. So I have done in a formula form. So now first 2 Ds are over. 3rd D, that is discipline, we are supposed to see. Discipline is very, very important. The moment probably when our teachers or when our parents, they say, you be disciplined, immediately we say, oh no, it is like a tonic. It is like an injection, but it is a necessary evil for all of us. Why? Because it helps us, it sustains us to our growth. That is the reason we need the discipline. A disciplined mind can achieve anything and everything easily than the undisciplined mind. That's the reason we need discipline. Now Shama. Shamaha Kaha. So already I told in my previous class that here the author is in a prose form is explaining, and also in a question and answer form. Many times we get in a poetic form, or in a formula form, in a sutras or in the poems we get, but here in the Tattvabodha, the author is taken in the form of question and answer in a prose form. So he's telling them 6 virtues are discipline. Shamaha Kaha. What is Shama? He himself is telling Shamaha Manonigraha. If you have got text, you can look into it. Shamaha Manonigraha. It is the control or mastery over the mind. We need a mastery over the mind. We need a control over the mind. Once you have got a control over the mind, what happens? Either in the external life, in the mundane life, or in the spiritual life, the progression will be very quick. Probably I told an example in my previous class. How I am the friend for myself, I am the real friend of myself, and I am the real enemy of myself. How it is? When my mind is under my control, then I am the friend. When my mind is not under my control, that I'm a slave to my mind. That means I am the enemy for myself. So similarly, Manayeva Karanam Bandha Mokshayoho, either for bandhana, for the samsara, and moksha, or for liberation, the reason is mind only. Because as your mind, as your thoughts, so your mind, as your mind, so your work, as your work, so your results of action, as your results of action, so your character, as your character, so your personality. That's all. So this is the psychology behind the rightful thoughts, right living, right ethics, ethics and all. Why I should be good? Because I will be punished. Because I may be put under bars. Is it? No. If I've got a good thoughts, that will create a good tendencies, that will force to do good actions, and that will create a good fruits of action. That's what we say, adrushtar prarabdha karma. And that creates an impact, and personality is grown. And as our personality, so our as our character, so our personality. So controlling the mind is very, very important. If we can control our mind, the success is in our hands. Most of the time in the present day, most of our youngsters, we don't have a control over the mind. That's why we struggle. When during exams time maybe, or some of us, we may have to clear UPSC exams, we feel. Sometimes we want to stand first in our college times, we feel. Have to mastery over some subject, some knowledge, or some skills, we feel. We have got desires. We may be trying, but sometimes or many times it is not possible for all of us. Why? Because we don't have a control over the mind. Once you have got control over the mind, you can do anything and everything. Like we can see in the life of Swami Vivekananda, when he was at the 10th standard, for 3 years, he had to study 3 years mathematics, and he was poor in mathematics, and he was not interested in mathematics. So he was keeping at last. Suddenly the exam was coming. Then he remembers, in 3 days, he sat day in and day out without sleeping. He mastered the mathematics. How? Because his mind was under his control. In 3 days, 3 years mathematics, self-study he did, and he finished it. Similarly, when he was as an itinerant monk, when as a Parivrajaka days, 3 days, he sat and he mastered the entire Panini's Ashtadhyayi, the Panini's grammar, we say. Sanskrit people will be knowing how difficult it will be. So in 3 days, he mastered over it. How? Because of control of the mind. So what is Shama? Shama is nothing but the control of the mind. And how the control is possible? Abhyasena kaunteya vairagyena cha grihate. So we can remember Gita here. The Krishna tells Abhyasa and Vairagya. Through this, we can have a control over the mind. Abhyasa means what? Practice. What practice? Practice of good things. Practice of cultivating good habits, good thoughts, good thinking, all these things. Vairagya, dispassion, means we have to become a monks. We have to renounce the life. Renounce the world. No. Here Vairagya means getting away from the wrong thoughts, getting away from the bad thoughts. The thoughts which makes us mentally, physically, intellectually, morally, emotionally weak, such type of thoughts should be shunned, should be given up. That is what Vairagya we can think for at this time. The same thing, Yoga Sutra also says, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha. The perturbations of the mind can be controlled by constant practice and detachment. Even the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Maharshi also tells the same formula or the same method. So this Abhyasa and Vairagya, it looks two simple words, so we may ignore, but this is the best method. Till now, there is no other method to control over the mind. Then what is Dhamma? Dhamma is nothing but the control of the senses. Dhammaha kaha. What is Dhammaha? Chakshuradi Bahendriya Nigraha. It is the control of eye and other sense organs. Chakshuhu Adi Baya Indriya Nigraha. So it is a control of eye and other sense organs. If you don't have a control over sense organs, then we will not have a control over the mind also. So control over the sense organs and control over the mind, both are very, very important. Now, why is it so? Control over the mind, is it not enough? Why do we need a control over the sense organs? Also, you may, if you are seriously following it, seriously, if you're studying, this question is bound to come. Because when your senses are not under your control, that means the senses come into contact with sense objects and the impulses is sent to immediately to the mind. Immediately, mind gets disturbed. That's the reason we need damaha also. So that's the reason in Bhagavad Gita again we can tell Kurmunganiva Sarvashaha. When the Krishna is describing the Chitaprajna Lakshana, the man of perfect wisdom, the man of steady wisdom, he says, when the senses are coming into contact with sense objects unnecessarily, just like tortoise, some danger is there, just like a tortoise withdraws all its limb. Similarly, a perfect wisdom who has got, he also withdraws his senses from the sense objects unnecessarily, because otherwise his mind and the energy of the mind and energy of the senses will be wasted. So we need to have a control over the mind. Say for an example, you are coming to your college, on the road some unwanted scenery you saw, immediately your mind gets disturbed. But initially when you were saying, immediately if you can control your sense organ and if you turn yourself, then your mind will not be polluted. But if you keep on seeing the undesirable thing, watching undesirable movie or seeing the undesirable things, what happens? Slowly, you will get interest in that. As a result, your mind gets polluted, your mind gets diluted, you will lose a lot of your mental energy. Then to control, to regain the control again, you have to struggle. So that's the reason we need Shama and Dhamma, both are very, very important. Then the third virtue is Uparama or Uparati. But both are synonyms, Uparama or Uparati, both we speak in Vedanta, but the author in the Tattva Bodha text, he is taken Uparati, so that we will also take the Uparati only here. Uparatihi kaha. What is mental equipoise? Swadharma anushtanam eva. Swadharma anushtanam eva. Swadharma anushtanam eva. Means it is the following of one's own duties. Many times, Uparati, what is Uparati? It is like controlling the mind. Some people or some authors, they discuss, they try to explain. No, what is mental equipoise means it is following one's own duty. So for an example, I am a student. Aham chatraha. Chatrasya swadharmam kim. What is the duty of the student? Swadhyayaha, tapaha, shauchaha, aparigraha, asteyaha, brahmacharyaha, anushtanam. I have to study. I have to acquire the knowledge as much as possible. I have to have a control over body and mind and senses. And I have to listen to the wordings or the teachings of my guru and have a simple life, have a disciplined life, and tame your body and mind as much as possible, so that I will have a mastery over the body and mind. So that is my Swadharma. So like that, when I become a Guruhastha, when I go to a household, so again there is a Swadharma. If I am an officer, I have got some Swadharma. There is a professional ethics we say. And as a father, I have got some Swadharma. As a father, as a mother, something. As a politician, as a leader of the society, he has got some Swadharma. So all these things has to be practiced. And here, what is Swadharma? The scriptures is saying that is Atma Sakshatkara is my Swadharma. Self-realization is Swadharma. How it is achieved, the author is not telling. By following Nitya Karma, getting up early morning, praying, doing prayers, and if someone has got Brahmopadesha, that is, then we have to chant Gayatri. If someone has got Vaishnava Diksha, then Ashtakshari Mantra he should chant. If he has got some Shaiva Diksha, he has to chant Panchakshari Mantra, or whatever the traditions we have been following in our houses or in our the institution, wherever we are staying. So there has been Nitya Karma, every day praying, every day remembering God, etc., and studying good things, scriptures. All these things has to be practiced. Why? Because to keep our body, mind pure and to have the vigilance. Why? Because after controlling the body and mind, if I don't practice Swadharma, what happens? Then I will not have a strength to control the mind and senses for a long time. It is like, for an example, antivirus program, or giving a strength at a booster dose. In the COVID time, it is a booster dose we can think. Fine, I controlled my body and mind, but I need some energy to continue my control over the mind. For that, this Svadharma or Uparati will help. So why should I pray every day? Why should I read some good books? Why do I participate in the holy company, in the holy gathering, satsangs? Why? Because my body and mind, especially my mind, will be charged with the positive emotions. When my mind is charged with the positive emotions, I get strength to control the mind, to have the good thoughts. When I get good thoughts, obviously I'll be propelled, I'll be forced to do the good things. That's why we need to have the Swadharma, means having always good company, etc., etc. And the fourth virtue is called Titiksha Kha. What is forbearance? Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadi Sahishnutvam. Shitaha Ushna Sukha Dukkadi Sahishnutvam means the endurance of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, etc. Now, why should I endure? The question may come. Sahishnutvam kimartham. Why should I endure at all? Why? Because otherwise, lot of our time and energy gets wasted. Unfortunately, we don't think. For an example, if you are living in Kalburgi in the summer, that will be a hot summer. If you go on cursing the god sun, oh, sun is not, gracious enough. We have got a scorching sun so much. And if you go on cursing and if you are going lamenting, there will be no change externally, but there will be a waste of time. Instead of that, yes, this is summer, and definitely we have got the scorching sun and we have got more temperature, 40 plus, we have to bear. So when you start accepting and bearing, what happens? There will be no external change, but there will be internal change. So lamenting and wasting your time and energy will not be there. Say for an example, now here got 2 degrees. Now in Ireland, Dublin, where I'm staying, now it is 2 degrees and early morning it was -2 degrees. Oh, there's a -2 degrees and sun is not gracious enough. So instead of that, let me sleep or let me not get up, let me get late, etc., etc. If I think, I will be the loser. By cursing sun, by cursing the weather, by cursing the Dublin or Ireland, there is no change externally. So what I have to change? I have to accept it, and accordingly I have to keep myself active and start my spiritual practices at the beginning of the day. So once you start accepting this, once you start forbearance, what happens? Your time and energy is not wasted. And also that's the reason Shri Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino nitya tantitikshasva bharata. It comes in 2nd chapters. Means when the senses come into contact with sense objects, all the dualities are bound to come, but they come and they go and they're not eternal. Agama apayinaha tan anitya titikshasva, because they're non-eternal, they're not eternal. And also they are coming and going, they're coming and going. That's why just forbear. So here, forbearing is not due to helplessness, rather because to do the better things, I accept it, I endure it. Because I don't have any other go, I have to accept it. No, that should not be our attitude. I may have option or I may not have option. Accept it and endure it so that I can give my time and energy for the better things. So that should be our attitude. In Vivek Chudamani also, beautifully Adi Shankaracharya tells, Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nikadyate. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam, you have to forbear at all type of sorrows. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam. Because you slapped me, I'm not able to slap you, so I'm keeping quiet and I'm saying that I'm practicing titiksha, forbearance or endurance. No. Even I've got a capacity to beat you, but still keeping good things for good sake, I'm not thinking even to take a revenge on you. Apratikara purvakam. And I should not, apratikara has been told by scriptures, I will not take revenge, but inside I'm boiling out. Some more I should do something for you. No. Chinta vilaparhitam. Even mentally, in the level of thought, I should not think about it. Sa titiksha nigadyate. That is called titiksha, forbearance or endurance. Adi Shankaracharya, he tells in Viveka Chudamani. From that, what happens? All our mental power, mental energy, it gets increased. That's the reason, beautifully, again, there's a beautiful life incident in the life of Swami Vivekananda. When Swami Vivekananda was in the Western country, he was alone, he was eating, he was taking his food in the hotel. Then next to his table, there were a few Europeans, they were sitting and they were talking. Swami Vivekananda had a long coat and the pant, which we have seen most of the time, and he was having a peta, turban. He was sitting. So that was a peculiar dress for the Europeans. So they felt very unusual. So they thought probably he's from some other country, and they thought probably he doesn't know English, and they started lamenting. They started making cheap jokes on Swami Vivekananda. He was keeping quiet. Just he was enjoying his lunch. He never told anything. Just while going, he wished, or either when Swami Vivekananda was going, or the people who were criticizing, who were mocking at Swami Vivekananda when they were about to leave, Swami Vivekananda greeted them in English. Immediately they came into the senses and they understood that Swami Vivekananda knows English. Then they asked, sir, if you know English, we were mocking at you, we were talking ill of you, but why did you keep quiet? Swami Vivekananda smilingly said, I am not meeting the foolish people first time. You see, it is like tight slap. I am not meeting the foolish people first time. It was a tight slap on them, on their face. So he never reacted for the people because he knew they are the weak-minded people. Why should I waste my time and energy? So that's the reason we need forbearance. Then Shraddha Kidrushi. Shraddha, because it is a feminine word. So that's why the author is telling Shraddha Kidrushi. What is the nature of Shraddha? Of what nature is Shraddha? Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha Shraddha. Though we say Shraddha means faith or belief, so it is not a right translation. Since we don't have any better word, we use the word faith. Otherwise, Shraddha means Shraddha only should be kept. Shraddha is faith in the words of the Guru and the Vedantic text or Vedantic sentences. Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha Shraddha. So Shraddha means it is not mere faith. We should understand the faith packed with the practice. Means whatever the belief, whatever the faith we have there, it has to be put into practice. Then that is called Shraddha. Oh, I've got Shraddha in you, but I don't listen. I listen to you, but I don't put them into practice. No, that is not called Shraddha. If you've got Shraddha in someone, or in Sri Ramakrishna, or in Vivekananda, or in Sai Baba, so whatever they have told, we have to listen, and with utmost concentration and faith, we have to put into practice. Then only we can say we have got Shraddha in their words. So in Guru's words and also in the scriptural statements, we should have Shraddha. Then you may say, oh, Swamiji, we belong to the science and technology age. We belong to computer age. We belong to artificial intelligence age. In the olden days, they were not probably scientific tempered people. They had to believe it. So the Shraddha was there. We are all very modern people, Swamiji. So do you think that even this holds good at this time? Yes, it does holds good. So that's why I tell it should be non-critical, open-minded approach we should have. Non-critical, open-minded approach, giving the benefit of doubt to the teacher we should have. I don't know anything about Vedanta, and the person already who has studied Vedanta, was mastered Vedanta, and is coming and telling something, I tell, no, it may be wrong, it may not be, it may be right. I don't have any adhikaratva there. I have never studied. How can I say that he's telling right or he's telling wrong? I cannot definitely question, I cannot definitely decide. If I have to question someone, if I doubt someone, then I need some energy. I need some adhikaratva. So that's why non-critical, open-minded approach we should have, giving the benefit of doubt to the teacher. Means we need humbleness, we need humility, humbleness to get rid of intellectual ignorance or intellectual arrogance. To get rid of intellectual arrogance, we need Shraddha. Shraddha helps us to get away the intellectual arrogance. And once you have got Shraddha, you can attain anything and everything, either in the spiritual life or even in the mundane life. It should be active faith packed with the practice. Then Samadhanam. The last virtue is Samadhanam. Samadhana in Kannada means sumne irodu, aramagide, yenirodu adana adjust ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇರೋದು. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ adjust ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ sir ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಹಂಗೆ. So it is not Samadhanam here. Samadhanam means here it is concentration, ekagrata. Ekagrata we tell. Here Samadhanam means ekagrata. or one-pointedness, one-pointed mind, or focused mind. Samadhanam kim? What is concentration? What is samadhana? Samadhanam chittaikagrata. Means it is making the mind one-pointed. It is making the mind one-pointed. So probably you might have heard the story from the Mahabharata. Dronacharya called all the 100 Kauravas and 5 Pandavas to the open field. It was a big open field. In the open field, in a long distance, probably 100 or 200 meters distance, there was one big tree. Dronacharya started asking, what are you seeing in the tree? Someone said, I'm seeing the tree with full of branches, leaves, twigs, etc., etc. He said, get lost. Then he asked, so one by one, they started telling some branches and you, Guru, and I'm seeing you, respected Guru. All your respect, let it be there, now you go get lost. So he was telling, when Arjuna was called, Arjuna is the only person who said, I'm able to see the bird and its eye. Then Dronacharya asks him to shoot an arrow. He shot the arrow and immediately it goes and it pierces the eye of the wooden bird which was fixed in the tree. So that was the test for their concentration. Why Arjuna was one of the Maharati among the 18 Maharathis. He was one of the Maharati in the Kurukshetra war. So what is the definition? What is the qualification for Maharati, you know, my dear boys? That is, a person who can fight with 10,000 people at a time is called Maharati. Imagine what energy he should have. Maharati means one who can fight with 10,000 people at a time is called Maharati, and a person who can fight with 1,000 people is called Atirati. So in the whole Kurukshetra war, in the so many 14 Akshayani Sainyas, or 18 Akshayani Sainyas, there were only 18 people. Among the 18 people, Arjuna was one among them, the Maharati. So such power from where he got? Because of this concentration. Already I gave an example of Swami Vivekananda. And also we can see in the life of Swami Vivekananda one more example, that in one day used to finish studying the encyclopedia. And Swami Vivekananda was in North India. He was with his brother disciple, one more brother disciple, Swami Akhandanandji. So Swami Vivekananda told you, get me an encyclopedia, first volume. Then Swami Akhandanandji went to the library and he borrowed the first volume and he gave to the Swami Vivekananda. The next day he said, okay, I finished this study. You give this back and get the second volume. Done. Third day, third volume. Fourth day, fourth volume. Fifth day, fifth volume. Then the fifth day, when he was supposed to take the fifth volume, then the librarian got angry. Then the librarian said, Swami, do you think that we don't have any work here? Because every day just you are taking one volume. Even the authors will not be possible for them to write even properly 1 year. They will need more than that. And one day you are taking, at least you read few pages. Instead of that, simply you are giving back because you want to show that you are a very wise person. Why are you doing this thing? Please don't waste our time. Then the Akhandanandji tells, sir, please note that it is not for me, it is for my brother disciple, for Swami Vivekananda. Then librarian says, whoever it may be, you tell him, your brother monk, why is he wasting my time? Then he nods his head and Akhandanandji goes and he informs Swami Vivekananda whatever has happened. Then Swamiji smiles and he said, tomorrow I shall accompany you, never mind. And the next day they went and both of them they approached and the librarian understood. Then he said, oh, you are the person who wanted to read encyclopedia. And probably if you have seen by chance, because nowadays I see most of our youngsters, students, they don't go to libraries at all. Very unfortunate it is. The encyclopedia, one encyclopedia will be like just like a small pillow. We can use it as a pillow and we can sleep. That big Britannia encyclopedias. Then the Swami Vivekananda said, sir, you did mention to my brother monk yesterday that why are you taking just for the showing sake or for advertisement? You do study some few pages at least, that you said it seems. So till now, whatever the volumes we have taken, among them, whatever question you want to ask, please ask, I am ready to answer. Probably when we hear this statement, we don't believe or just for a sake, we will keep, okay, you go like this. But the librarian was not a small person. He was not an easy person. He thought, okay, let me check. And he take the one randomly among 6 volumes. He took one volume randomly and he opened randomly a page and he asked about a particular concept. Swami Vivekananda explained, or he told verbatimly, whatever was there in the encyclopedia, verbatimly he told. Not only that, closing his eyes, he told it is in which volume, in which page, which paragraph, etc., etc. And the librarian got a lot of sweating. He sat and he said, sir, whatever you want, how much ever volumes you want, please you take and go, sir. From today onwards, I will not ask anything. How Swami Vivekananda was able to read? One is because of the concentration. The second is because of his brahmacharya, because of his practicing celibacy. Someone asked in future, how did Swamiji you can read so many things at a small time? Because he says that I have got the Medha Nadi. Medha Nadi. For 12 years, if you don't tell lie, if you practice truth, and if you can practice absolute brahmacharya, celibacy, then Medha Nadi will grow in our brain. Then by that, you can understand anything and everything in this entire universe. So I have got that Medha Nadi. That's the reason I can understand things at my will. So samadhanam, concentration is very, very important, my dear youngsters. If you have to read 10 times to mastery over a lesson, if you've got a concentration, 1 or 2 or 3 times is enough so that our time is saved. We can use more time. I mean, we can at the same time either to read more and more or to acquire more skills, to do whatever you want. So with concentration, studying is very, very important. So that's the reason even Patanjali Maharshi, he explains the samadhanam or concentration, sajatiya vritti pravaha, means flowing of same type of thoughts, flowing of similar thoughts. So for an example, now you are hearing Tattvabodha text, Tattvabodha lecture of mine. Probably there are 200 or 300 students may be there. So the Tattvabodha thought is going on because you are hearing in middle some other thoughts may be going. Either a previous period you heard, or someone had made some joke, or you wanted to go to your hometown, or something you have read something in your library or in the classroom or in your room. So many these thoughts will be coming and going, it will be juggling. That's the reason if I ask, what did I tell about concentration? What did I give an explanation about concentration? Most of us will not be able to tell things in completely. Why? Because lack of concentration. Tattvabodha thoughts, then science thoughts, then English thoughts, then friend thought, then morning breakfast thought or lunch thought. All thoughts are jumbled up in us. Means sajatiya vritti. Similar thought is not there. It is vijatiya vrityaha. It is mixed with many types of thoughts. That's why we don't get concentration. And in Bhakti Shastra Granthas, the samadhanam, concentration, is explained as taila dharavat, means oil being poured uninterruptedly from one container to another container. From one container, if you're pouring the oil without any interruption, how it will be continuous flow. You have studied, I think, PUC and all in viscosity from science. So how it will be? So like that, in the mind, we should have a similar thought, one thought, just same thought, similar thought. That is what samadhanam. That is what chitta ekagrata. That is what ekagrata. Probably I'll give one more example and I will go to the next idea. When we were small, probably we have done all this child prank. We take a lens. When we are outside, we are standing simply. There is a scorching sunlight. We are feeling the sunlight, never mind, but we never felt any burning sensation. But suddenly, knowingly or unknowingly, one of my friend focuses a prism or a Bhuta Ganadi, we say in Kannada, that is convex lens. Someone focuses on my hand. After a few minutes, immediately we feel burning sensation and immediately we withdraw our hand. If same thing is focused on a piece of paper, a paper catches fire. Why it is so? If you throw the piece of paper in the scorching sunlight, nothing happens. But if you put the convex lens, immediately in few moments or in a few minutes, it catches fire. Why? Because in convex lens, what happens? It converges. Means there are so many rays, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, so many rays, it gets converged and the power gets intensified, and that's why the paper was able to catch the fire and I felt the burning sensation. Whereas in concave lens, what happens? It diverges. So that's why ekagra, eka means sing, agra means at the tip, it will be very sharp. For example, a nail, how much of it is the sharp, so it will be able to pierce the wall. Even similarly with the arrow also. So when our mind is sharp and concentrated, we can pierce the things and we'll be able to get the knowledge. We'll be able to understand the secrets behind every concept, every idea, or everything. So that's why samadhanam is very, very important. Samadhanam means it is concentration. The 6 virtues are over now. And the 4th prerequisite for the adhikari is mumukshatvam kim. What is mumukshatva? Moksho me bruyad iti ichcha. Let me attain liberation. Let me attain liberation. This intense desire, earning is mumukshatva. It should be intense. Okay, I want moksha. Okay, I want to pass an exam. I want to stand first in my degree course. That is we have got such type of thoughts or desires, no doubt. But I should stand first in my degree exam, whatever it may be. That should be intense desire. So similarly, we should have a burning desire. I should be liberated. In this very life, I should be liberated. Such type of intense desire, burning desire, is called mumukshatva according to the author. If that is the thing, what happens? When you get an intense desire for liberation, all other worldly desires will be lessened. Then you'll be able to go fast in your spiritual life. The progression, the spiritual progression will be fast. Otherwise, I have got desire in spiritual life, I have got desire in something else. All these things are there. What happens? Obviously, because of other desires, my progression will be lessened, or the fast or the progression will not be quickened. So that's why Acharya is telling here that it should be intense desire or burning desire. So these 4-fold qualifications is nothing but the adhikari. Adhikari for what? To study Vedanta, to start spiritual life. It is not for moksha again. We have to understand. This is for to study Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. He is called Uttama Adhikari. One is a Uttama Adhikari. What happens? If he is a Uttama Adhikari, definitely he'll be able to study Advaita Vedanta. He'll be able to understand Advaita Vedanta. When he hear the Mahavakyas, then you'll be able to understand. So probably in my previous class, I did tell Tattvamasi Shveta-ketu. 9 times his father, Uddalaka, he said, Aham asmi Brahma. I am that Brahman. He understood. He realized. But for us, 9,000 times, 90,000 times, 9,00,000 times we hear, but still will not be able to realize. Why? Because we are not Uttama Adhikaris. Because T and C apply. So probably if you sign any agreements, there will be in the small letters, it will be the T and C apply. We don't read all that. We conveniently say, and afterwards, for an example, if you are doing insurance policy, there will be T and C apply. We don't see terms and conditions apply will be there. We don't read. So similarly for spiritual life, if you want to be liberated, you want to have self-realization, you want to have God realization, you may try, but T and C apply. So what are this T and C apply is nothing but the adhikaritva. Why? We are all trying to meditate. We are all trying to do bhajans. We are all trying to reach near God, but we are not able to. Why? Because T and C apply. This adhikari, either viveka or vairagya or mumukshatva or samadhi shatka sampatti. Either of them are not incomplete, or they are either some of them are not there, some of them are there, some of them are in very less percentage. That's why we are not Uttamadhikaris. That's why we are not able to go near God or near self-realization. Yetat sadhana chatushtayam. Sadhana. These are the 4-fold qualifications. So adhikari is done now. Then what is the second anubandha chatushtaya? Dear students, anyone can have you tell now? The first anubandha chatushtaya adhikari is over. Second anubandha chatushtaya. Vishaya. So what is Vishaya? Bah, wonderful. So you are all present. Mentally also you are present here. I am very happy. So you are all Uttama students. Uttamaha Chatraha Bhavaha. So you are all good students. I am happy. So what is Vishaya?
Subject matter.
Yeah, it is the subject matter of the book. It is the subject matter of the book. So what is the subject matter of the book of Tattva Bodha? Here, Tataha Tattva Vivekasya Adhikarinaha Bhavanti. After having acquired these 4-fold qualifications, thereafter they become adhikaris, means persons fit for the enquiry into the truth. So what is Tattva Viveka? Means enquiry into the truth. Tattva Viveka kaha. Now Vishaya, the author is entering to the Vishaya. So Vishaya is what? Tattva Viveka kaha. Tat tattva. Tva tattva. Tatu tattva becomes. So what is tattva? Tattva will be telling. It is about existence. Tat means it is. It is. It is means what? Existenceness. So tattva means it is about existenceness or existence. So tattva vivekaha kaha. Kaha, what is tattva vivekaha? True knowledge. So true knowledge about the existence. What is true knowledge or what is true existence is nothing but the tattva vivekaha kaha. Means inquiry into the truth. Inquiry into the fundamental existence. Or inquiry into what is existence, existenceness. That's what Tattva Viveka. So what is Tattva Viveka? What is true knowledge? Author himself is explaining Atma Satyaha Tadanyat Sarvam Mithya iti. Now I think before explaining these things, I have to explain few terminologies for you according to the Vedanta. I don't know how far you know. So in my previous class, I had given a definition for the Nitya, the definition of Nitya. I don't know if anyone can you remember. So what is Nitya for us? If I have to say Nitya, if it has to be eternal, what is, how can I say? What is the qualification to be any component or an entity to be Nitya? Anyone can you remember? Yeah, that's why we say, I say always making notes is very, very important. Yeah? Sorry? Yeah, Trikala Abhadita. Trikala Abhadita Satya means it should exist in past, it should exist in present, it should exist in future also. That is what Nitya. Then what is Anitya? Trikala Badita. Either it may be in past, it is present, it will not be in future. It was not in past, it didn't exist in past, it is in present, it will be in future. So something, Trikala Badita is Anitya, Trikala Abhadita, it is called Nitya. So Nitya, Anitya you understood. Now Sat. Sat means existence. Sat means it is existence, it is there always. And Asat means it never exists. For an example, Akasha Kusumavat. In the Vedanta, this often given example is Akasha Kusumavat. Means the flowers grown in the sky. The flowers can never grow in the sky because it needs a support of the land, of the earth. So that is what Asat. Sat means it is an existence, existenceness, and Asat means it can never exist. So Sat and Asat and Mithya. So there is a difference. The Mithya is, it is neither Sat, it is neither Asat, but it is Mithya. It is one of the unique concept of Advaita Vedanta. And it is very sensitive, very subtle, and it is not at all easily understandable. The Mithya, Mithyatva Vada has been, after post Shankara, there are so many books have come and it is a very technical subject. It became so complex that they left the Atman and they started discussing about the Mithya. Very unfortunate that thing happened in the history of Advaita Vedanta. So Mithya here, because author is telling the word Mithya, you have to understand. Mithya means was, for your understanding, probably I will explain like this. Mithya means it is an appearance. It is just an appearance. It is neither true, it is nor false, but it is an appearance. So probably when you hear, you will understand is probably any commonsensical person will never say this. It neither exists, means it is neither Sat, and it never exists. Or I mean, it cannot exist. It is neither Sat nor Asat, you are saying, and it is different from Sat and Asat, or it is neither Sat or nor Asat. It is something confusing, isn't it? So I'll give an example probably that makes you the concept clear. It is a very subtle concept. So that's why we need Prakana Granthas to get into this type of thinking. For example, in the olden days, we should remember in the village environment, you should go into the village environment. Then the big house is there, and we used to use rope to draw the water from the well and all. A piece of rope was thrown at the corner of the house. And it was a dusk time. So there was only twilight. There was neither it was a complete dark, nor there was a complete light. A person of the family, to have a nature call, he went out. He went to back door of the house. He saw the piece of rope at the distance, and immediately he felt that there is a snake. Immediately he shouted, "Oh, snake, snake, snake." Immediately people in the olden days, with all the lamps, they carried with a stick, along with the lamps, they came. "Oh, where is snake? Where is snake? Where is snake?" Then the fellow said, he showed at the corner, there is a snake. Then 2 or 3 people, they saw with the help of lamp, and they laughed heartily. "Oh, my dear, it is not a snake, it is a rope." "Is it?" The person who was frightened, he asked, "Is it?" They say, "Yes, you see." And with the help of lamp, they showed with the proper light. Now he is also able to perceive. He was also able to understand. He's also able to understand. Yes, it is a piece of rope. It was neither snake. Now the question is, Kyativada is there beautifully in Advaita Vedanta. When you come study advanced text, you will be understand how this perception it came now. So whether the snake exists or not. Now the question is, you say, no, snake didn't exist. It was always rope. It was always rope. He mistook the rope as a snake. That's the reason he got frightened. So there was never snake. If I say, then someone will say, how is it? I think there should be snake. The component of the snake should be in the rope. Why? Because if not, then how he mistook it? Why he got frightened? His heartbeat got increased. He had got a sweat. All whatever the reactions we were able to see in his face or in his body. That's the reason. Probably at given point of time, probably there was a snake component of snake exist in that. Then there's a lot of Sadharmya, Vaidharmya, and all. Every school of philosophy has got their own different explanations on this. Now the Advaita Vedantin says, I cannot say snake exists because the snake never exists there actually. At the same time, I cannot say snake never existed because at some point of time, at some point of given time, a person experienced the snake in that. So it is neither Sat nor Asat. So it is Mithya, it is an appearance. It looks very simple example, it looks very foolish example, but when you study the Advaita Vedantic text, we will be able to understand and appreciate this example, how it is beautiful and how it is important. So similarly, for the Advaita Vedantin, this world is also a mithya. Why? Because we are not seeing the world as it is, we are perceiving the world as something else. Probably I'll give an example. I will give an example from the science itself. If a physicist or a scientist, if you ask, what is the world? It is nothing but matter. What is matter? Again, he says that it is nothing but atoms, nucleus, protons, electrons, and all. Then what is that? Again, atoms. Then among them, protons, neutrons, electrons, like this. Then I give a book. And what is this? If you say, a physicist says, oh, the atoms have been very closely, compactly, they have arranged one after another. That's all he says. But I cannot use it as a functionally, but as a technically, that's how he tells. Because the atoms have very closely arranged one after another. That's why it is appearing as a book. So when you sizzle out the pages, a book, you get a papers. When you sizzle out the papers, you will have a piece of paper. When you sizzle out the piece of paper, and when you see with the help of microscope, then you'll be able to see so many atoms or whatever, so many cells. When you pierce the cell, when you go sizzle out the cell, you will see so many things. Means the cells are very closely arranged in a form. That's the reason it is appearing for you as a book, but it is not a book. It is a very subtle concept, even in the science. I don't know how many people will be able to understand. You have to think yourself. So now, whether I'm seeing as a book, I am seeing as a book, whether this book is true or not. Yes, for an appearance, it is true. It is as an appearance, it is a book or a paper, but actually it is nothing but the cells. But I don't react, I don't behave, I don't handle this as a, oh, there are so many cells compactly arranged. I don't behave, I don't handle it. So that's what even with the world. The world is nothing but the Brahman is appearing as the world, but we are mistaking the world as a true. That is what the Mithya, it is an appearance. So the Advaita Vedantin never said that the world is asat. Asat means it never existed. No. Then is it sat? The world existed for us? No, it is also no. Then the world is never sat, the world is never rasat, the world is mithya. Means it is an appearance. Appearance what? The Brahman is appearing as the world. So it is an appearance. It is a projection, we say. So Advaita Vedanta never accepts creation, it accepts projection. Whereas Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, and Semitic religions, all other things, they accept the creation, Srushti, but the Advaita Vedanta, it never accepts. It never accepts the Srushti Kriya, because it is against Einstein's law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of momentum, whoever studied, because the energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed, that's all. So even if you see from the science point of view also, so we cannot accept the creation, it is only projection. So that to understand this fundamental truth, so author is introducing the word Satya and the Mithya. I hope you have understood now. Atma Satyaha Tad Anyat Sarvam Mithya iti. The self alone, the Atman alone is true and everything else is false. Means it is an appearance. Atman alone is true and everything else is appearance. That is what Tattva Viveka. So what is the truth? The truth is Atman alone is true and everything else is appearance, Maya, Mithya. Everyone has become very serious, it appears that. What is this? Everything is going head above the head. My goodness. And that too afternoon, after lunch, I can understand. So it has become very grave situation probably. So Sat and Asat you try to understand, and Mithya you try to remember, and probably you, if you have taken a habit of notes at least, try to remember it and listen to this and think for yourself. And if you have got anything, just you can think little. In the next class, I'll be able to explain things little better and we'll go. So that will be, it appears that you have understood. It will not be, it needs some more time. I can understand. If you are already exposed to Advaita Vedanta terminologies and text and thinking, you will be able to understand and comprehend. Otherwise, definitely it will be a technical term. It is very subtle, I can understand. Slowly, when you keep on reading and when you keep on thinking and when you keep on hearing this same idea and from at different levels or from different angles, you'll be able to follow it. Never mind, for today, I think this should be sufficient, I think. We'll end with the Shanti Mantra.
There is only one question, Swami. Can I ask?
Yeah,
okay.
Please.
Yeah. How to strengthen our forbearance or titiksha, which you are telling, because it's a very it is one of the important trait in the sadhana chatusha. I'm just adding to that question. You are the warden of B.Ed college in Mysore. You had dealt with many youths, so many people with many varieties of mindset could have come to you. So how, with what kind of forbearance you brought them, all of them, to Advaita Vedanta? You
My
can tell
philosophy
that.
is, my philosophy is act, don't react. Act, don't react. We are always busy in reacting things. That's why we lose, what do you say, patience and etc. etc. So according to me, it is I should act, I should not react. React is nothing but the foolishness or the weakness of the mind. One thing is that. And the second is forbearance brings good always for me. For example, someone abused me unnecessarily, and I will abuse him, and he abuses me, and it goes on. We use in the Kannada. ಕೆಸರು ಅಡಚಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಷ್ಟು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗಲೀಜಿದಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೊಚ್ಚೆ ಕಲ್ಲು ಹಾಕದಂಗೆ. ಕೊಚ್ಚೆ ಕಲ್ಲು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಡಿಯುತ್ತೆ. So it is better, it is a wise decision that not to put a stone in the ditch, because that other way it will fall upon us only. One is that. So all this, when we are at a lower level, when our mind is at lower level, all these problems comes. When we rise ourselves with the good thoughts, good thinking, having fixed goals, and keeping trying with all these things, automatically the forbearance will come, according to me. See, we are always busy in controlling the mind or controlling the emotions, which we find difficult because we are at the same level and we are trying to control. This becomes difficult. Instead of that, we have to sublimate ourselves. We have to keep ourselves having a fixed goals, high goals, high thoughts, obviously these things are easy according to me. Probably in yesterday's my class here, yesterday's class and the other class, I was spoken on Shraddha. Shraddha has got three aspects. One is self-efficacy, self-direction, and self-responsibility, which is very important and very good thing. Probably if you can, possibly you students can hear this. There are all these things I have discussed. So fixing the goals always. So that will help us to probably to increase our forbearance. Otherwise, it's a waste of time and energy. Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think today's class was awesome. Actually, what all you have said, that makes the guidelines of Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence. One has to be an adhikari in order to be a student of Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence. I think all students have enjoyed it, and especially the last part. For me, if someone says Mithya, it was coming only as non-real. But today, even I got a correction that Mithya is a projection rather than real or not real. So it's a wonderful lecture. I think the next lecture would be wonderful. This is a good climax, I can say. Part 1. Like we have TV series and movies part 1. This is a good stop. I think all students, even myself, I'm eagerly waiting for the next class, which speaks of Satya and Mithya in detail, maybe. Thank you, Swamiji.
Now, again,
yeah.
Wednesday, I'm not free, and neither Wednesday, not Thursday, Fridays. Is it then tomorrow? Is it okay, or next week you want?
Tomorrow we can have it, Swamiji. If you're fine.
Tomorrow you can have, okay.
Yeah, we can have it.
But so they'll be able to digest, your students?
Yeah, Swamiji, they will. We should, Swamiji, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, Nisangatve Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve Nishalatatvam, Nishalatatve Jivan Mukti. We should do it. Fine, Swami, then we will end with, Sahana Bhavatu prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryan Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadi, Tamastuma Vitpishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Sai Ram.